Well, hello and welcome to today's training session. We're looking today at designing a report, and it's the second in our short series on reporting and marketing administration within Sage CRM. This lesson, we're going to be looking at the way in which we can create the different reports. We'll look at the specifics of that in a moment. But of course, it's in this cycle of training where we'll be building on all of our knowledge. We're looking in our previous lesson at how we can start experiencing the different types of reports that operate within Sage CRM. And today we are going through some of the building blocks of creating those reports. Not all of it. We're going to look at some more of the sophistication of building a report by looking at charts and looking at tagging information being included into reports in next week's lessons. But right now, we're going to get going, and what we're going to be looking at is how we can design a list report, a cross-tabulated report, and a historical report. So we're going to really get going into that straight away. Now, all of the lessons that we're going through are being recorded. They're going to be edited and going to be made available on the Sage CRM course on report and marketing administration, and that's all on our Sage Training and Support YouTube channel. Let's get going and start that process of creating reports. So I'm going to log on. You can see that I'm logging on as an info manager, somebody who has specific rights. In this case, Susan May, who's a sales manager. Those rights mean that she has permissions to create reports. Straight away, you have to be an info manager to be able to create a report, and she's also been given full rights to be able to run different types of reports, such as enterprise reports, not just her own private reports. So I'm going to go into the reporting area, and I'm going to start the process by creating a list report. Now, you can see that this is building on from yesterday's lesson. You can see where we were looking at one of the existing report types within here inside sales. I'm going to build another sales-based report. And for this, you can see that I've started to come into this screen, which is the details screen for the header. Now, there are a number of different fields here within this report details panel. We can see that we have to provide a name, we have to provide a view source where the data is going to come from, and we confirm the categories. Now, notice when you come into this, it is already dropping in some defaults. So it's dropping in the fact that, yes, we're starting to define this within a specific category, sales, and it's assuming that we want to have a page length of 20 rows, which excludes any of the header and footer information that we might have within our page. This is very much in terms of the pagination of the HTML pages that we create. And you can see that we can provide other information, such as deciding which type of report it is. Now, the type of report that it is affects the other options that are available to us here. So we can see that there are a number of checkboxes available to us. So if we were to change the report type, one of the things that gets switched off is that the auto hyperlinking field would disappear. So auto hyperlinking is only available in list reports. This is because crosstab always displays data as a grid, and it doesn't make sense in the context of historical reports, because they're displaying data within a specified date range. So it doesn't make sense to have auto hyperlinking in that. But what we do have here is the idea that we can choose the report style, and that question about how you can define additional styles to match where the report intends to be run, whether it's a mobile-based report, whether it's something that we run in the desktop, or whether you want to create a version of the style sheet based on your own branding. That's covered in separate lessons and blog articles within inside the community. But it is possible to override that and change that. Now, I mentioned the rows per page. You have to be mindful of that. If you ever leave it blank or put 0, what you'll find is that there's no pagination. It just writes everything out in a stream of consciousness, which is not a great experience for the user, especially if you're having to produce a very long report. You can see that we've got the ability to put a free text description of the report in there. And then here, we can also start to mark this report as whether this is an enterprise report, which is the default, or whether it is actually a private report, which is not available to be seen by other users. Now, I mentioned auto hyperlinking. If the field in a report comes from the opportunity, you would hyperlink into the opportunity summary screen if it's to the person, into the person, and into the company. Hyperlinks, though, are only available on the predefined fields within Sage CRM. It won't work with a custom field. We can also tick to indicate whether we want the original currency values for financial reports that are being written out. It's only applicable when you are working with multi-currency elements, and the currency fields are displayed with their decimal precision determined by their offset from the base currency. I have discussed currency in another lesson that is already recorded and available on the YouTube channels. So if we think about other things in here, like if our list report, when we come to decide the columns that are included, we can decide if we are reporting back, say, company name, description of the opportunity, and say the product code. If they are the same, we could suppress the distinct. We could click to make sure only distinct values are shown. That could display erroneous information. So you have to use that with some judgment about whether you are suppressing duplicate values. So you want to think about whether you want to use that. Filter by, and these are the filter by fields. These add automatic filters into our reports, and these are applicable as the data is brought into the generation of the report. So it is a pre-display filtration. So we can decide to automatically filter by the current user, by the user's primary team, by the user's home territory, and we'll be using one of these, I think, in one of the examples that I'll talk through in this lesson. So that's where we are as we come on to look at the options. Well, of course, I'm going to choose here. I'm going to give this a name for my report, and I'm also going to decide on the data view that I'm using, which is the opportunity summary. And here you can see I can now start to build my report. Now, this is a list report that I'm building, and what I need to do is I need to decide that I want to filter this automatically to my team. So this is, remember, the persona that I'm using is Susan May, the sales manager. She wants to know what her team are doing when it comes to selling. And so I'm going to then also apply some columns in here, and I'm going to then choose to add those into the report contents. So when you're working with the field on the left-hand side, it's a question of pressing the control button and click to select the multiple columns that you want in order to then choose to add that into the report contents. So I've added that into these are the columns then that will be in the grid that is generated for the list. And I can also choose to then add in another column. This is the column that I want to be able to search on. So I'm going to make sure that this is going to be one of my criteria, and I'm going to also provide a little bit of sorting and grouping as well. So what I want to do is to have my output for my team to have the different names of the salespeople, and then they will be the group. And then within this report, I'm going to have the data only showing me the uh, uh, in progress opportunities, so things that people are working on at the moment. So I can now, oh, and you can see that I've just remarked that little checkbox because that had become unfiltered for some reason, but I've marked that in. I'm all set. I'm going to then continue with this definition. So I'm going to click to define this, and this is where I'm confirming the criteria that I'm using for the report. This is the default for the report, and this is going to be in progress. So I want all of my opportunities are in progress. So if I continue, you can see that I'm now on to the next page where I can start to put in some other information about what I want to display. So here, this is where I can put header and footer information into the definition. I can also control whether or not I want to put in some chart information. I'm not dealing with charts in this lesson. I'm just here going to mark out, give the report a title. I'm going to say I'm going to include my logo. And again, how you change the logo that your organization has is something that is discussed on inside the documentation and inside the community as well. In blog articles, I'm choosing to put in the report title in the data, the running of the report into the header, and in the footer, I just want my name of the person who is defining and running this report. So if I scroll down, you can see that I've got other options for formatting, as well as the option, as you can see, to add in the chart. This is what we will be doing in next week's lesson, when we'll come back and we'll start thinking about the types of charts or visual displays that we want to use, and whether or not this particular chart is then going to be available inside the dashboard as well. So if I switch back to the top, you can see that I've now got an option to save this report, and that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to choose save, and that now appears within my list, and I can actually mark that as one of my favorites. And so if I come to run the report, I can do that. And if I run the report, you can see that it is inviting me to either put this as HTML into a PDF or export it to the spreadsheet. Exporting a list report to a spreadsheet is a very common thing, because you then want to be able to carry out further data manipulation. Here, however, I am not. I'm going to keep it to an HTML report, and I'm going to click my go button and have it run. And here you can see that this is running. It's displaying the header information that I've configured to work with. And importantly, you can see that it's listing out all of the opportunities for my contacts. Now, I happen to know, because I was playing around with this, I know that Susan May has within her team, that she is the manager, there are 45 opportunities, and I can see who has these, what they are, and I can see them grouped. If I page through these 20 records at a time, I can see how all of the outcome is shown. So this is all following the settings that I had configured in that earlier report details panel. And I can now, I think I'm going to close this down. So I'm just going to close this little pop-up with the report. So I'm back where I had my report definition, or where I was running rather the report. And what I want to do is now look at the process of defining another type of report. So we've looked just there at the uh, we've just looked there at the list reports. Now I want to go and deal with, I think I'll deal with a historic report, because what I want to do is show you really a trick that we can do if we know that there's a report that is useful to us, how we can clone that report. So I'm going to switch back. So I'm now looking at my other sales reports, and we can see in here that there is a historical report. And so you can see that this is the opportunity closing history. And you notice that there is a button on the right hand side within this report that I've come into edit, and you can see that this is there's a clone button. Now, what I want to do is I want to take a version of this. In yesterday's session, we looked at how this particular report was based on the idea of the historical periods being based on the week. I want to change this, so I want to actually do this based on the month. But let's actually go through that process of clicking the clone button. And here you can see that it starts off by saying it's a copy of the report. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give this a better name, a name that I prefer. So this is my revised historical report. And then I'm going to choose save. And then that carries through and copies the report. Everything about this report is cloned and copied across. So now I'm essentially fast tracking the development of my own report. Now I have my title, I have my data source, I have put it into the right category, and very importantly, you can see that the report type is historical. And now the fields that are displayed within the historical area are very different from where we were defining the list report. So it's, in a way, simpler. So we have the report fields where we essentially are going to identify the output. We're going to be identifying as well here the in range fields, the out of range fields. These are the date fields where we want to be able to grab the records between this area and which are the ones that we don't want. Or we say excluding that's another possibility. And we can also see the basis of the period that we're looking at. So I am going to just make sure that that is now changed over to being the month. So I can change that to the month. And I'm not changing anything else about this report, so I should be able to click to continue. And you can see now that I'm also identifying that do I want all of the status, which was part of the criteria, or am I going for everything? But I've got here definitely my date range. So if I now continue this, I moved on to the next element of the report definition. It's simpler again, because you're not dealing with any summary information here of like the tables that we were looking at, and the formatting is very much simpler. We still have the option of drawing a chart, and I'll come back to that in next week's lesson. But here you can see now I can choose to save this, and I can of course start to run this as well. So I'm running my report, and here if I just go, well, actually before I hit go, I'm filling in my date range, because if I didn't do that I would get an error. It's a mandatory field for historical reports, and so if I click to run this, we can now see, rather than running with the week 31, week 32, weeks, and so on. We're running from November, December, January, February, and so on through this period that I'd set. And we can scroll down and we can see the information at the bottom that is providing that historical information for the periods that we're interested in. So that's the nature of the historical report definition. So if I close that pop-up window, and this time I'm now going to go back, I think I'm going to go back up to sales again. So I've just clicked that cookie trail to go back up to the sales area. And here I'm going to create now a cross-tabular report. And as a sales manager, I'm interested in the idea that I should be able to see how many, just get a summary information about how many opportunities that are in progress at any one time for my team. So I can do that by starting to define a report. And I'm going to do this from scratch. You can see that I've got my report details panel here. I'm going to choose the fields that I fill in the information here, marking this as in progress, oppos by salesperson, and marking this as a cross-tabulated report. It's always useful to use the field type or the report type in the name, so it gives you it makes them easier to spot within the report listings. And then I need to choose the data source and make sure that everything is good to go. So here I've chosen my data source, I've chosen it as a cross-tabular report, and down here you can see that I've filled in here the information that I want. Now, for my cross-tabular report, the information that I'm dealing with is if you imagine I want to have an overall criteria that I just want to report on the opportunities that are in progress. I want to have the names of the people that are in my team, and that I want to also make sure that I am looking at each of the individual stages. So I can see those stages as lead, in whether they are qualified, whether they are proposal submitted or quoted, and so on. So each of those particular stages I want to see and then account in the grid. And that's what we've chosen here within these particular values. So the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm just going to click continue, and you can see that it is the in progress items that I'm interested in, so I can now go on to thinking about the header information and the graph information that if I want it. So I'm not bothered. And this one, we've discussed the creation of the header and footer information. So I'm just going to click save. And so my report is visible here. And if I come to, let's just go ahead and mark that as a favorite. Let's see about running it. Let's click to go and make sure that everything is in place. I'm going to generate this as an HTML report, and if I click my go button now, you can see here that this has produced a cross-tabular report. The look of the report is entirely down to the style sheet that is being used for the creation of the reports. That's part of the definitions. And as I said, if you want to change things, include the logo, include the title information, this is all things that are under your control as you come to define the reports. I just went with a very simple generate the information as a test, and now it's showing you in that tabular form the summary information of the count, essentially, of the information at that particular status. So let's summarize what we've done. In this lesson, we've been able to look at the way in which we have defined three types of reports: the list reports, which create rows and columns of information based on the criteria that we want. And we can see that we've also looked at grouping that information as well. We've looked at the cross-tabular reports. We've just looked at that, how we can create essentially a record count across the X and Y axis based on selected criteria. And it is a count. It's not going to be a summation of value. It's always going to be a count. And the historical reports providing a static view of records at previous points in time. And you can add in other search criteria to focus in on the particular data that you want. So that is the overall pattern of what we were looking to discuss in today's session. It fits in to the wider set of exploration of reports and charts that we're building. Then we'll be exploring the way in which we can add further value by adding in a chart in the next lesson, and also how we can use tagging information and key attribute information inside reports as well. Let's see, though, if anyone has got any questions from today's session. If there are no questions, I'm going to say thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. I look forward to seeing you on the next lesson, where we'll be discussing, as I said, charting using the report features, and we'll be adding those into the dashboards as well. So thank you very much, everyone. See you next week. Bye-bye.